4 more games for you heading into this weekend. Welcome to Saturday Locks. Welcome into Saturday Locks, your home for college football picks of the week. I am your host, Rajiv. Thank you for joining, and thanks for all the early support of the show. If you like what we're doing, hit the subscribe button, like button, notification bell so you know when new videos come out, and you can follow me on X at Rajiv Badgers. I had intended for this show to come out on Wednesday, but was not able to do it. That's on me. I am going to move it to Wednesday nights going forward, but it's still on its typical Thursday night this week, but I'm going to move that just so you have a couple extra days to get your bets in. Okay, let's talk a little bit about last week. Wasn't the prettiest. 0-3-1. It was actually the first week that I did not have a win. Did have my first push of the season, bringing the record to 24-14-1. Good record on the year, 62%, still very solid win percentage, but didn't have the best week. Came close, but close doesn't really matter in this world. Let's go over those bets before I give you 4 new picks heading into this Saturday. My push was Michigan State at Minnesota, -3. I was actually surprised. I'm surprised Minnesota didn't play that a little bit better. But Michigan State's kind of known for these late covers and these late pushes. So that's what happened there. The losses, there were 3 of them. Penn State, Ohio State. I thought Penn State would keep that a little closer. Ohio State won by 24, I believe. So just covered it a little bit. New Mexico, UNLV. I had UNLV -3.5. That was a track meet. I should have done the over on that. It was a track meet like I expected, but New Mexico just had a little bit more. UNLV squandered a couple chances to really take that lead and to keep it. So that was a loss there. And then USC did beat Nebraska, but only by 4. So the lines were fairly close, but close does not matter in this business. So again, 24-14-1 on the season. All the picks are against the spread or over and unders. I'm doing all spread this week. 4 more for you. Some big matchups. Let's start with game day game, right? BYU at Texas Tech. This game is at 12 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. One of the biggest games of the week. There's this, and then there's the Oregon-Iowa game that have a lot of cachet. We're not covering the Oregon-Iowa game today. We'll talk about it a little bit, but that was one I was really kind of back and forth on. This one is super interesting. Texas Tech is favored by 10.5 points, which is a lot of points, just a lot. BYU is the 7th ranked team in the newest rankings. 8. Texas Tech is 8. BYU has really surprised people. Some good ones on the schedule. Texas Tech, though, has been high-powered offense, top-level defense, top-level rush defense, but just not a typical name that you see up at the top. The Big 12, not the greatest conference, right? So someone's going to come out on top, and this game's going to go a long way in deciding what that is. What is my pick? I'm going BYU plus 10.5. Couple things here. Looks like their running back, LJ Martin, is going to be healthy. At least that's the indications as of now. Progressing through the week, they've had a key linebacker who's back as well, and practicing and playing, and is likely to play in Lubbock. They've got a great quarterback, freshman Bear Bachmeier, thrown for 1,700 yards. But more importantly, he's rushed for 400 yards, 4.3 yards a carry from the quarterback, let alone the running back, who is averaging 6 yards a carry in LJ Martin. They are a running team. They've run 322 times and passed 211. They've clearly leaned more run. They're very efficient, clean, very turnover averse. They're not a team that turns the ball over very much. The quarterback only has 3 picks on the season. They're very methodical, but they can kind of crush you with explosives on the ground. Now, you couple that with the fact that now you're playing Texas Tech, who, by the way, has the #1 rush defense in the country at 2.4 yards per carry allowed. So that lends itself to think, geez, like, can they stop BYU? The line is interesting, 10.5 for this number. When the 7th ranked team in the country is getting 10.5 points, you immediately think, boy, everybody's going to bet on them, meaning that the line probably is screaming to say to take Texas Tech. I disagree. So there is a lot of money on BYU, actually 92% of public money. However, only 42% of bets are on BYU. 58% of bets are on Texas Tech. There is extremely heavy, sharp money going on BYU. And I think it's because this line is heavy value. I'm actually shocked that this line is 10.5. I really believe that if this line was 6.5, I can understand that. 10.5, that especially with that hook that you can get right now on various websites, the half point hook there is critical. I do not see this being more than a double digit game for either team. I actually think BYU can get the win here, but it's going to be closer because BYU doesn't turn the ball over. They run the ball effectively. They have a clean offense. Texas Tech, you can maybe argue they've got that game day, sort of vibe, right? They've got all that game day juice come in. I don't think they've ever had game day before. If they have, it's been a long time. So that could be something. But I'm going BYU plus 10.5 in one of the biggest games of the weekend. All right, next up, Kansas at Arizona, another Big 12 matchup, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Arizona is at home. It is homecoming. They are favored by 5 points in this game. You can get it at 5.5 locations. You can get it at 5. I haven't seen anything less than 5, but where I can get it, it is 5. I am taking Arizona -5. Very high-powered offense, put up 52 points last week against Colorado. Kansas has had a pretty bad season. They got rocked 42-17 in back-to-back weeks by Texas Tech, who's a good team. We talked about them in the last segment, and Kansas State, a team that Arizona beat. Arizona also took BYU into double overtime. They've got a great quarterback, Noah Fafita, who's put up huge numbers so far this season. Very explosive offense. I like the homecoming team here. I think Kansas is just bad. I'm actually surprised the line is what it is. I could see this definitely being a touchdown game or even more. Could even see it being a double-digit win for Arizona. They just put up a lot of points. I don't think Kansas is really going to do that. I don't think Kansas is going to stop Arizona very well. Kansas has really no decent win on their schedule all year. They haven't done a lot. They've underperformed. Their recent success, I think, kind of gives people a false sense of how good Kansas potentially can be in Jalen Daniels, but not that interested in seeing that. Sharp money is on Arizona. The bets are actually pretty split. 53% bets on Kansas, 47% on Arizona. The money kind of flips a little bit there. So you've got 57% of money on Arizona just because of some sharp bets. I agree with that. I think the sharps are correct in this world. Taking Arizona -5, homecoming game at home. I'm all for this here. Kansas really, really has underperformed. So take Arizona -5. All right, next up, we're moving on to the ACC. Duke at UConn, at least one ACC team. Duke at UConn, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time at UConn. Live dog here. A lot of people liking UConn. The spread is 9.5. I'm taking Duke -9.5 on the road at UConn. A lot of people like what UConn's doing just because they're putting up big numbers, but they haven't played anybody. Honestly, I mean, I'm just going to walk you through a little bit of what UConn has done this season. They beat UAB, put up big points last week, 38-19. Good win. That's kind of helping this line even a little bit more than it should be. They lost to Rice the weekend before that. They beat Boston College, who, by the way, is the worst team in the ACC at 0-5 in conference. They've got to win over FIU. They lost to Delaware. They lost to Syracuse. This team really hasn't done much except they have a light schedule. So they've got a good, decent looking record, and they're playing at home. So people think that Duke might struggle there a little bit and not struggle, but potentially are not going to beat them by a sizable margin. So you've got a lot of public money going on UConn to the tune of 88% of public money on UConn. And that's 93% of bets, like a heavy money because everybody loves a home dog. I've been on Duke a lot this year. If you watch the show throughout the season, you'll know that I like Duke. Darian Mensah, the quarterback, he's thrown for over 2,600 yards, 21 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. This team has played a real schedule, a really good schedule. They're going to win this game, and I think they're going to win big. I don't think UConn's going to be able to stop Darian Mensah. There have been games where I've watched them, and I feel like they could have done better. They've gotten in their own way, made some silly mistakes, but they've gotten a little bit more clean throughout the season. They had a big one over Clemson last week. Clemson's not a good team right now either, but they're still putting up big points. UConn's not stopping Darian Mensah. I'm gladly taking Duke -9.5. I've seen it at 10. I've also seen it at 9 here and there. I was able to get it at 9.5. That's where I like it. If you feel like I think you're under the 10, so I think that's fine here. If you get it at 10, you want to buy down half a point, that's fine. You could tease that a little bit, but I like it. Anything under 10 here, take Duke -9.5. UConn's just not going to be able to get it done. All right, last up, we're going to the Big Ten. Nebraska at UCLA, 9 p.m. Eastern time. This is a little bit of a later game. UCLA is laying a point. I am taking UCLA -1 at home. UCLA surprised a lot of people this year. Obviously, they had their little stretch in the season where they beat Penn State. Surprisingly, they got some national attention there. They beat Michigan State. They had another win, and then they got absolutely roasted by Indiana. But everybody gets roasted by Indiana, especially at Indiana, which is where that game was played. Nebraska has had another season where they have high expectations and they're wanting to beat ranked teams and they're wanting to make waves in the Big Ten, but they're not going to do it, even with their guy Dylan Raiola, who, by the way, has now had a season-ending injury. I don't think Dylan Raiola is that great of a quarterback, but he also is good enough and he brings a ton of energy to that team. And he is the reason that people are excited about Nebraska football again. As soon as they got him in there as a recruit, very, very high. I think he was a 5-star. That's a guy that everybody was talking about, right? Well, now he's hurt. TJ Lateef, he's now the new starter. Very mobile, quick guy, definitely going to stress UCLA a little bit. The Rose Bowl's not a home field advantage. Let's be honest about that. They barely put anybody in that stadium. There will be a lot of Nebraska fans that travel. So there's that element of it as well. But Nico Iamaleava, very good quarterback, a guy that can, you talk about stressing defenses. He's the epitome of what he can do there. And honestly, they're still playing with an edge, right? Ever since they fired their coach early in the season, UCLA's played with fire. They look more hungry. They've got solid wins in a conference where they were the doormat. They were the bottom of the conference. No one thought they were going to do anything because they looked very bad early in the season. They progressively got better. I would argue that Nebraska has progressively gotten worse. Competed with USC. They have some good wins, but without Dylan Raiola, this team looks totally different. I'm taking UCLA -1 at home. Let's go over those picks for you again. In the big game of the week, BYU at Texas Tech, I'm going BYU plus 10.5, staying with a lot of the public money, but also with a lot of the sharps. Kansas at Arizona, I'm going Arizona -5, homecoming there. Just don't feel like Kansas is a good team at all. Think Arizona wins this comfortably. Duke -9.5 at UConn. I'm laying the points, taking Duke. Far better team. Still doesn't really get the respect in a lot of cases. UConn's just getting a bit too much. Darian Metz is going to have a big, big day. Look for Duke to roll in that one. Lastly, Nebraska at UCLA. UCLA -1. That'll do it for this week's picks. Thanks again for watching. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps out the channel. And of course, happy betting.